So we are here today with Sharon Robinson. Thank you very much for being here. And we're going to be talking about home birth. So we already posted a couple of videos. The first one about Katya and I speaking about our own experience. And we then posted also a video about the interview we did with the midwife that actually were present at our home birth here in Canada. And Sharon has been part of our journey because you have been a very big part of the journey, because we have been, starting traveling when Katya just discovered being pregnant. And so we went through the first couple of months really not thinking about it so much, because we're just the first couple of months. But then getting in Australia, we started getting in touch with some midwives there, and we had also very nice contact there. And then New Zealand has been the central part, probably the most important part, where we have been there for 2 months. And through, acquaintances that we got there, we got through your name. And it was a very warm, advice to get in touch with you. And we have been, Katya, especially because she was the one, carrying the baby. But we have been both very, very happy of meeting you. And you have been giving us such a support and a big, kind of push toward the fact of embracing home birth, even though it was already something where really was growing within us. But you have been very much the one person that brought us to be 100% sure that that's what we wanted to have. So we want to, we're very grateful to you for this. So you're obviously a midwife, and so I would like just you to introduce a little bit yourself, a part of my introduction from the father that has been taken this journey thanks to you as well. And introduce yourself, talk to us a little bit about your experience, and maybe you can all even start with the experience you had this morning, since you have been writing me and you're telling that you had such a great experience this morning with a home birth.
The home births are always so special. Yeah, they're very unique for each family. And the home birth this morning was a woman who was having her second baby, and her first baby had been in a birthing unit and a little bit hectic. She hadn't had a very long first labor, and she'd had a random swab, and it had shown strep B. So the protocol is to give IV antibiotics. This is her first baby.
Yeah.
So she said that she rushed in very fast labor, and they tried 10 times to get an IV line in. Never got the IV line in. She had the baby and she were fine. So this time she just thought, I'd rather stay at home and I'd rather not worry about giving IV antibiotics. In New Zealand, we don't even recommend, or we don't do routine screening for strep B, which is something that can cause an infection for the baby. But in her case, she hadn't had a problem, and she just dealt with all these sticks to try to get an IV line in with her first baby, and she decided she'd rather just avoid all that. And for all the women that we don't check, we don't know, as long as it's a full-term baby and not prolonged ruptured membranes, we don't give IV antibiotics to the women we don't check. So anyway, she called me this morning. The first phone call was at 5 a.m. and everything was going smoothly. She was just giving me a heads up. It looked like the baby might be coming today, but the contractions weren't that strong and regular yet. Then she rang me back at 6 and said, we're getting closer together, getting a bit stronger. So I said, head that way, but no urgency about it. I got there about 7 or slightly after 7, helped her husband get the pool filled up and ready. She was contracting quite strongly, but coping well. We got the pool filled up and warm. Baby's heart rate was fine. She helped in the pool. Her 2-year-old daughter wanted to get in the pool with her, so she jumped in. She's still breastfeeding. She had a little suckle, was playing in the water. Mom started to get a bit grunty and a little bit distressed, so she wanted to get out of the pool. So she hopped out with Dad, and within about 5 minutes, she had a little sister.
All right, so it was quite quick. I mean,
it was just so amazing, and they live in a quite quick. The second midwife walked in the door as the baby was being born. So she was there to help me with the paperwork and the breastfeeding. And after she pushed out her placenta, she has an outdoor shower. She lives near the beach, so she thought she'd like to go have an outdoor shower, and she went out and had a shower outside with the other midwives, and I helped the dad clam. She had a homemade tie with a little pink stone on it, and the dad and I put the tie on the cord after the placenta had already birthed. She lost about 100 mils. It was about an hour after birth that she pushed the placenta out. We just waited for her to do that on her own. We got the cord tied with the homemade ties and cut, and they're going to plant a tree on it, so it's wrapped up in their freezer. And then she came back from her shower and sat on the couch and breastfed the baby on one side, and the 2-year-old breastfed on the other side to get to know her sister and decide that maybe this sister is okay. Just honestly, the oxytocin, I think I'm addicted as well. And the home birth, there's so much oxytocin. And the women just hurt the babies themselves. We're there in case of a problem, but primarily we're just trying to support normal and reassure the woman that she's doing fine. She was amazing. She's so happy. She didn't have to go anywhere. Her daughter got in the water, had a play, got out. Dad gave her some snacks. She had a baby sister. She breastfed on one side while the baby sister breastfed on the other on the couch. Nobody was traumatized. Nobody really had their even normal routine interrupted. So I think the more home births that I assist women with doing, and the more years I've been doing it, the less I do anything. It's like the best job in the world because I just get paid to go enjoy helping new little people come into the world. And I just think I don't see complications. This woman lost about 100 mils, if that, of blood. She didn't have any tearing, stitches. And it's just such a positive experience and a nice way to welcome a new person into the world. I don't clamp and cut cords right away. Sometimes the babies are moving around and a bit blue, and they're not even breathing a whole lot yet, but they're obviously doing fine as long as you don't clamp and cut the placenta, the cord to the placenta. They still got the lifeline to mom, and they take their own time to start breathing and getting pink and moving around and getting used to the fact that they're outside instead of inside. I just can't help but encourage more women to consider home birth because the outcomes are so positive, and everybody has this amazing, joyful, exuberant feeling. Like, I don't know, there's no about it. In the hospital, it's so hard to avoid that. There's always timelines, doctors asking, why hasn't your woman birthed yet? The nurses or other midwives come in and they want to give injections after the baby's born to help get the placenta out. And honestly, if we're supporting normal, all of that is completely unnecessary. I think that as midwives, we really need to understand and know what normal is so that we know how to support it. It's not something that we have to help women figure it out so they can do it. Their body already knows how to do it. They were born with a computer program. It has the program that tells you what to do.
Yeah.
So you just have to follow what you were born knowing how to do. And we as midwives need to understand what is going to support normal to unfold. And it's a releasing. It's a getting out of your head And it's just trusting that what your body's doing is a normal physiological process, that the oxytocin levels are going to rise if we can keep her calm and reassure that she feels like she's powerful in her own space. So I think the longer I am a midwife, the less and less I do, and the better and better I get.
Very nice to hear. And well, now from my perspective, since we had this wonderful experience as well, of course, would be very much, at the side of home birth, which we are definitely. We are sustaining it, and we would like. That's why I'm making the interview with you, and I'm trying to make also interviews with others, because we really believe that is something we have to try, spreading the word a little bit, so that more and more parents, not only women but parents, because at the end, father has to be there and supporting the woman as much as the woman is convinced to do home birth. Otherwise, most of the time, it cannot happen. Yeah. And but I want also to play a little bit the devil's advocate here, because I know that many people, especially back at my country, and pretty much I think all over Europe, it's home birth. In most of the cases, is still seen like something weird, something that just few people are choosing because maybe they are a little bit counterculture people, or against the tendency of the society, etc. And I mean, exactly what I'm talking about. So what has been done for thousands of years now has become something weird, something that just few can do, and it's really to be seen like something a little bit strange. So tell me, from your perspective, we've been talking quite a lot together, and we touched the point also with our midwives here. So what do you think, or why do you think is that the medicalized birth has become so not only popular but so in the mind of people safe? Like most of the people, if you talk about home birth, they would tell that it's unsafe, it's dangerous to have it, and that's why they choose to have a birth in the hospital. So why do you think is that a general opinion nowadays, especially in certain countries?
Well, I think that what's happened is that the medical model, the perspective of the medical model has taken over our society. And there are times when I transfer to the hospital with a problem. So when I take care of women, I say, as long as everything's going normally, we don't need to go anywhere. But if things look like they're straying from normal, you're not progressing, you're not coping, there's concerns maybe with your temperature or the baby's heart rate or prolonged ruptured membranes with some temperature, anything like that's why you need a good midwife to recognize when things are not going normally.
Yeah.
What you also need is the midwife who understands and truly, in her heart of hearts, has confidence in normal. And what I tell people is, for thousands of years, women have birthed and birthed and birthed. And I will acknowledge there were problems that nowadays, in our medical model, we can do something about. Thank goodness for the medical model and the interventions that are available at the hospital when they're needed.
Yeah.
But if what women want is a normal, uninterrupted, uninterventive birth, the risks that are going to interfere with that happening are much greater at the hospital than they are if you can stay out of the hospital. But you have to have some confidence in your own ability to birth your baby, because what I explain is anything that makes you feel okay, you are in the fight, flight, freeze mode, and your hormones, your stress hormones have elevated when you go. So anything that makes you feel scared, anxious, nervous, unsafe, it's going to raise those hormones, and that is going to block the release of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that really needs to rise and rise and rise. And I think the oxytocin, as Michelle O'Donnell talks about it, is a shy hormone. It's released, I think it's the hypothalamus in the woman's brain, and it comes in surges. And anything that stimulates her flight, fright, and freeze response by making her feel is going to interfere or it's going to stop the release of oxytocin. Because essentially the hormones are like little messengers that are going through the woman's body, and they're telling her either, like with the fight, flight, and freeze hormones, they're telling her, oh, something's wrong. They're telling her body, something's wrong. She feels stressed. She doesn't feel safe. Don't let the baby out. And so they block the release of oxytocin because she doesn't feel relaxed and safe.
Yeah.
So as my job as a midwife, understanding how normal works, I'm trying to help her stay calm. I don't let my voice speed up. I don't sound panicky. I don't sound worried. If there really is an emergency, I address it calmly. But anything that goes is going to do exactly the wrong thing for what she needs for her body to progress. They're fixing the coffee right beside me. I guess the more years that I am practicing as a midwife and the more I help couples have babies in different environments, the more I see that home birth gives the most positive birth experiences for couples. So I try to expand people's perspective about their idea of fear and safe, and where is it safest for me to have my baby. We're so lucky here in New Zealand. We have a system that supports home birth, primary birthing units, and hospitals. And they all work together pretty seamlessly. So if I'm at home with a woman and trying to support her normal, and we do run into complications, we can go by car or ambulance to the nearest hospital, which we always book her into that hospital before she goes into labor, so that they're kind of expecting us if needed. And we go in, we consult with the obstetrician who's on call, explain what's going on. And what I tell women is, if we are transferring from a home birth to the hospital, we are not going to enemy territory. We are going to where they have the services that we need. That intervention is now warranted for some reason. That maybe she does need some help because of the condition of the baby. Sometimes we don't know why she needs some help. It's just not happening, or she's not coping well. So we go to the hospital and we get the help that we need. That's what's amazing about New Zealand's system. And it sounds quite similar to what they have there in Canada. Actually, there was a midwife, Joan Donnelly, who helped kind of establish the system in New Zealand the way it is, and she was from Canada. And she came here, she was like the mother guru for midwifery in New Zealand. She passed away a few years ago, but she was really, really trying to promote the support of normal. And that's what I think we should do first. First, help the woman birth her baby under her own power and help support her normal unfold. It's just releasing the tension and letting her body do what it knows how to do. And what I tell people is, it wasn't until the last 1 or 2 generations that women started to birth in hospitals. And so in order for me as a woman to be here today, thousands and thousands of women gave birth to my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. You know, it goes on and on and on. And Mother Nature has all those generations to refine and perfect this whole process of pregnancy, labor, birth. And yes, things can go wrong. And thank goodness we have the medical model to help us when that happens nowadays. But first, let's support normal. And that is very difficult to do at the hospital. There's too much at the hospital about everything. They have guidelines and protocols, and their focus is on what to do to prevent everything going wrong. And that attitude brings the factor into it, and it actually perpetuates the outcome being feared.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually quite common for women who feel like they need to be in the hospital because that's the safest place to be.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of confidence. They're worried that their body doesn't know what to do. And so they go to the hospital, and often things unfold in a way that they do end up with the interventions that were there, probably because they didn't have the ideal hormonal mix to birth naturally.
Yeah.
As a midwife, I want to help other women and midwives understand what is normal and how do we support normal and how do we let that unfold in a natural way. Very powerfully positive birth experience, which facilitates bonding, which facilitates a mother feeling confident in herself as a birthing mother and a parenting mother, and the father too.
Sure.
He's very involved, usually in the home birth. He's much more actively involved in his role of supporting her, helping the midwives get whatever needs to get done, the pool filled or the whatever it is, taking care of the other children, helping them be involved, bring the woman something to eat. He knows what food is in the refrigerator. It's their space.
Well, I was there, and I had for the first time in my life the chance also to catch the baby, not alone, but with the hand of and the support of the midwife. She asked me if I wanted, and of course I wanted. And it was the first time that was offered to me, because the other two times, were in a hospital because we were unaware about the possibility, because we were not offered to us. And so I was there like, kind of tourist, just watching what was happening, but not really actively involved.
I probably don't need to say a whole lot more. What do you think?
Well, I think that, while you are talking, there is so much that I would like to touch, etc. But probably the only thing that really, at this point, that can really touch the mind of some people, and I think especially back in my country where people are not really given the option. And everything you said makes sense, 100% resonates very much with me, because we had this experience of having birth in the hospital or a clinic anyway, and home birth with Axel 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago, 2 months ago. And so it really resonates with me, and I understand perfectly. And I agree perfectly that we have to support women. But what I think maybe could be useful to say to people that they are still scared, afraid, lacking of this self-esteem and thinking that the best place is the hospital, what we could really touch a little bit is the point of, from your experience, of how often, talking a little bit about tangible things, numbers, how often is it that you actually have to go through complications when you have a home birth? And, talking from this perspective, and what really is the difference if you have a complication that you are having a home birth versus having a complication when you are already at the hospital?
Well, I think the other midwife said this, and I'll reiterate. The research is showing that the outcomes for mothers and babies, as far as how well they are or how unwell they are, the outcomes is comparable for low-risk women birthing in home versus out of the hospital. I mean, at the hospital versus out of the hospital. The outcomes are pretty balanced. Mm-hmm. What's different is that the amount of intervention in the hospital is way higher. Mm. They do epidurals, they do episiotomies, they do cesareans, they do ventouse, which is the suction to pull the baby out. They have forceps, they give IV drips of oxytocin or pitocin or syntocinon much more commonly. So the intervention is much higher at the hospital. And the other thing is that when they look at mother's satisfaction, I think fathers would be included in this, but they haven't researched the dads. When they look at how the woman feels about her birth experience, she feels much more positive and empowered by her home birth experience. She feels like she birthed her baby herself. Yeah. She did it under her own power. She wasn't rescued by some knight in shining armor that came in and pulled her baby out and saved her baby's life because it was such a catastrophe. That doesn't happen at the hospital. Much more happens at the hospital than at home. Yeah. Because at home, you're supporting her normal much more effectively The research is also showing, from what I remember off the top of my head, that the different studies say different things, but for a primate or first-time mom who's birthing at home, the rate of transfer is, I think I've heard, just under 20%, maybe 19%. So that's about 1 out of 5 first-time moms might transfer to the hospital.
Yeah.
I think that probably varies a lot from midwife to midwife, and it's about how well we help the woman cope with normal. At home, often has to get an epidural because she's not coping well with the normal birth. Some midwives may help her cope better than other midwives. I think my transfer rate is lower than that, but that's what the research is showing. And I think transfer rate for mothers who've had a baby already, for them, it's more like 4 or 5% to transfer to the hospital. So that would be maybe 1 out of 20. Yeah. So that gives you an idea of transfer rates.
Yeah.
And I think it is that we do have somewhere to go and transfer to pretty seamlessly. Sometimes I go by car if it's just early labor. Maybe the woman knows she's not coping well, and she's going to want an epidural, or maybe she's starting to have a temperature. You know, we're going to get to the hospital just as quickly. There's no chance that the baby's going to be born on the way. We go by car. Probably more often than that, we go by ambulance, for me in my practice. If things aren't progressing, if there's a concern, sometimes after the birth, the woman's bleeding heavily. Usually we have everything we need to handle that at home. I carry with me things to give an IV line, you know, an IV drip of oxytocin after the birth if it's needed to help. I hardly ever need it. Usually she's in her own natural oxytocin high state, and her body contracts, expels the placenta. My bag of medicine stays pretty full. I don't use much. I bring it all in case it's needed. Sometimes the baby needs some help to start breathing after it's born. But to be honest, if you have a cord attached and not cut, and it's pulsating at a rate of, say, 100 or 120 and above, that baby's heart rate is what is pulsing through that cord. And a baby whose heart rate is low means that he's struggling and not getting the oxygen that he needs. He needs help. If a baby comes out and he's a bit blue, he was blue inside, if he doesn't breathe right away, but the cord is attached and pulsing, he thrived on the oxygen he got through the cord from his mother for 9 months. He or she. You know, it's like their lifeline, that if you respect that baby being born and transitioning to outside the uterus in his own time, in his own way. I have babies that don't breathe right away, but you can see their tone is good, they're looking around, they're moving, they're making faces, like, where am I? The cord is pulsing really, really well. That's the baby's heart rate. The baby, when they were conceived, the conception produced a baby, a cord, and a placenta. It's their own organ, an extra organ that they have, that they make to attach to the inside of the mother and use like a parasitic device to get what they need from the mother. And
that's what they have done for 9 months, exactly.
Yeah. So when they come out, they're born into water maybe, the mother picks them up or the father picks them up, they're looking around, and eventually they feel the air and they start to breathe. And as they start to breathe, the cord stops pulsing gradually. Most of my babies that I help facilitate their birth now, the cord pulses for half an hour. I think about the new research. There was an article that was just published in the last few days about how they discovered we should not be cutting premature babies' cords for at least 1 minute after birth, because if you wait 1 minute, it increases the survival rate of premature babies by 30%.
That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And yet, it hasn't been being done in the hospital. They clamp and cut those cords right away. Well, what if they're leaving it 5 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour? until it stops pulsing on its own, and that baby and that mother have completed the transition process and are ready for that cord.
Yeah, because again, it's the natural process. Like for us, it was more or less half an hour until it was really no pulse anymore. And we checked it, throughout from the 15, 20 minutes more or less. And when it was really no pulse anymore, it means that the baby doesn't get anything from the umbilical cord. At that point, it's really, it's okay to cut it. But before, not.
Of the need for mother's supply.
Exactly.
Another thing I think about, I've often thought about, is why do we clamp and cut cords? Like every animal in the wild, out in the field, farmers, animals, they don't clamp and cut cords. But we, as human beings, clamp and cut cords. If you wait until all the pulsations have stopped and the placenta has birthed, there's nothing going through the cord. The clamping and cutting in the hospital is an artificial, abrupt stopping of the baby getting what it's been getting from the mother. And of course, when they clamp and cut the cord, that baby better cry. And, often they cry loudly, the transition being outside the mom.
Yeah.
At a home birth or at a birth where that's not done, the transition can be very calm, gradual, respectful. The baby starts to breathe, it's looking around, usually within 20 or 30, maybe 40 minutes. It's looking for the rest because it's establishing its breathing first, and once it's breathing well independently, then it starts to look for the rest.
Yeah, I realized with Axel when we cut the umbilical cord, he didn't make absolutely nothing, no cry, nothing at all. It's like we cut it and...
He wasn't on it anymore. It was a non-thing for him at the point that you waited 30 minutes or more.
Yeah.
You clamped it and cut it. It was already out of use.
Yeah, it was not there anymore. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like I have this image, maybe because I'm a scuba diver, of having a, umbilical cord is called actually underwater, when you have the tube that is bringing you oxygen or air in that case. So if you come out of the water and you take off the helmet and you don't get air from there anymore, you can even cut it off and I don't care, I'm breathing already. So it's... when
you're still under the water.
Exactly. If I'm still even just 30 centimeters underwater, if you cut it, I'm going to be out of air.
And I've used the scuba diving analogy myself. I have a son who's a commercial diver. Women who've been supported to have home births say it changes everything about how they raise their children.
Yeah.
They're much more conscious of every step and what impact each step might have for that child. And they take a lot more responsibility for the direction that their child is going in, rather than just handing it over to the experts.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, I'm sure that people that have been hopefully going through the entire interview and listened until here is because they have this kind of awareness and this kind of mind to understand that it's very logical what you're saying. Because if you leave, not give or give back, it's just leave the power to a woman and to a father as well, I would say. So to a mother and a father to go through the natural process, which is giving birth in a natural way to a child, we feel more, confident that we have the means that that nature was giving us to cope with everything that comes after birth. So that's just the start. But if you already take off the power from the mother and the father from the beginning, like, going through the medicalized process of birth that we know very good, and you take off the power that it's going to affect all the decision in the future, because you feel like, scared of taking any decision. You couldn't take the decisions there. Somebody else was doing it for you. And further on, you also feel like, okay, let's better go with the flow and let the system do things.
You're less institutionalized.
Yeah.
Taking your life and your children's lives and their future into your own hands.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what's needed to give them the most opportunity to fulfill their potential, to problem solve and be creative. And I think if we just keep ticking the boxes and doing it the way it's been done, where are we headed? We need some new thinkers out there that are going to look at it in a different way and find some solutions that are much needed for our planet and for our humanity.
That's, you know, I feel it's pretty much our mission since we went on this journey with Education for Life, and we didn't even think honestly about, for sure not before leaving, because Katia was not pregnant, but everything, you know, it's going with the flow, and the home birth we had and the pregnancy before, etc. And then realizing that it's part of Education for Life, because having a home birth, giving the power back to the parents to decide for their own child, and in the future for the education of the children, like we are doing. And we really think that, and again, it's not like taking away anything from hospital and not even from schools. You know, there are different realities, and it's right and it's good that there are different options to all the people. But the critical thinking, I mean, it's very important that we give back power to people to think about the decisions, and not just to go blindly and follow what society or the system or the institution tells you. Then if you decide really with awareness that that is really the best option you want for yourself, like I heard from mothers, like I want to go and have a birth in a clinic with epidural because I enjoy it. But it's important to have the option and to think about what are the options, and with awareness get to the decision what I want to do. Yeah. So definitely I agree.
Yeah, there's much we can talk about, but it'll be interesting to do the interview in the next couple of days with the couple that came from Sweden just to New Zealand to have a home birth.
Sure, I'd like to. Looking forward.
They knew how to have their baby, and they couldn't do it in their home country. So they looked at where in the world was the best choice for a place to go to birth their baby consciously and alone, but with support.
Yeah, and these are Jeff and Laura, right? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll finish today and we'll pick up again in a couple of days.
Perfect. Looking forward for it. So thank you very much, Sharon.
Hugs and kisses to Katia.
Thank you very much. Same for you. And say hi to your husband behind you. All right.
He's good at ignoring me.
Have a very good day. Thank you very much, Sharon. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
You too.